Hang on a second, shitstick.
Shit stick? Del, theories?
I don't know. Maybe a stick made out of shit?
Or a stick used to stir up shit.
All right, fuck off.
Gears 5 is boring and monotonous. I just can't seem to get that much enjoyment from the game anymore. Now, it could be that I've been playing Gears for over a decade now at this point, and I'm just getting bored of it. Or it could be the fact that Gears of War 5 is actually just extremely easy and not really that interesting gameplay-wise. It's been over a year since I even touched Gears of War 5, so I thought, why not go back to the multiplayer and see what my actual gripes with the game are. After hours of playing, I realized that my main issues are movement and weapon balancing. Now, for reference, I will be using Gears of War 4 because it's the most similar to Gears 5. And in my honest opinion, I think it's the perfect multiplayer experience for Gears of War. That might be another video for another time, honestly. Movement is a really big part of Gears of War. It's possibly one of its most defining features. Over time, so many things have changed with Gears of War, with its omnidirectional movement, less shaky camera visuals, and even a quicker way to mantle cover. But overall, the only thing that really stayed similar throughout all of these years have been the actual cover mechanics. The cover mechanics hardly ever change. Even in Judgment, where all the controls are flip-flopped around, cover mechanics are still relatively the same. Gears of War 3 did add an aggro cover mechanic called the mantle kick, but I think Gears of War 4 perfected that kind of playstyle. You have the mantle kick, the reversal, and the yank. But even before those attacks were set in place, the aggro cover play has always been a thing. Back in Gears of War 2, there was a huge thing that was discovered called wall bouncing, and it's survived all these years. It's not really the most difficult thing to do, but it is a very useful skill to learn for aggression and evasion. Over time, the gameplay felt a lot more smooth, but bouncing has always felt stiff. It has always felt technical to do. Gears of War 4 is extremely buttery smooth to play, but the wall bouncing still requires technique. I am really bad at wall bouncing. I have never really been too good at that type of mechanic, so over time I just learned to fight against it rather than doing it myself. And it may come as a surprise to all of you guys, but this is me wall bouncing in Gears of War 5. Instead of needing to get better at a very technical movement, they updated the cover mechanics so that instead of needing to understand the technical movement, you just need to move your stick left and right and mash A. Now, do I think everything needs to be complicated? Not really. But when it's a mechanic that's this good, I think there has to be some sort of gap that you need to cross before being able to do it properly. Now, instead of understanding what you're doing so you get a leg up on the competition, anybody can do it. So it's a bit more tedious to run into, and it's also a bit more irritating. Instead of understanding that the person I'm going up against has practiced at least for a little bit, I'm going against some schmuck. I gotta change that. I'm going up against literally anybody who could evade all of my shots, get out of a situation extremely quickly, or play extremely fast and aggressive. Don't get me wrong, that does take a certain amount of skill, but it's not as flashy and interesting as it used to be. Understanding that the person you're going up against is using a specific mechanic just to body you is actually quite interesting. It makes you want to learn it yourself. But now that anybody can do it, no matter the circumstance, it kinda dilutes the interesting nature of it, because you practically see a full team do it in every single game. You see this type of stuff even in extremely low ranks. There's no barrier that you have to cross to start coming into contact with bouncers commonly anymore. I remember back in Gears 4 and even all the way back in Gears 3 when I was just a Padawan. I would see these bouncers and I'd get messed up. I'm not even gonna lie about that. I'd get fucked up pretty bad. But it was there to teach me how to either fight against them or join them and learn to bounce. I attempted to learn. I just sucked. I just really fucking sucked at that. But there was a joy coming into contact with bouncers because I knew I was getting somewhere. I knew I was going up in ranks. I understood that I was not the best, but I was also not the worst since I was coming into contact with these type of players. But okay, if wall bouncing is so prevalent now, why don't I just get better at aiming and shoot them? Well, you see, the assault rifle or power weapon is really the best way to go about it. If you don't have the precision to use a sniper and don't want to risk getting shot with a shotgun, damaging them at least a little bit before they get in close to you is ideal. But the weapon balancing in this game is a bit off with the assault rifles. And that's really just a nice way of saying that the assault rifles are genuine shit. The Lancer Mark III in Gears of War 5 has a large bullet spread, low damage, high recoil, and along with every other weapon you spawn with, is unable to active reload. I'm not asking for it to be the main weapon in every single match, but I do wish it was a bit better. Maybe reducing the recoil will make it a bit better, but I don't know. Gears of War 4 also uses the Mark III, but it's an amazing weapon in comparison. The damage is still around the same, but it has lower recoil, lower spread, and can be active reloaded. The Lancer is the icon of Gears. Why would anybody attempt to make it obsolete? A good thing about assault rifles is that they are used for halting progression. If you don't want somebody rushing towards you, an assault rifle is usually one of the better weapons to go about it. But the assault rifles in Gears 5 have extremely low stopping power. A thing that you see often is a Nasher user straight lining towards an assault rifle user without any regard for his health because he knows the assault rifle will not stop him. Due to that type of balancing, Gears 5 is so much more of a shotgun fest compared to every other Gears in the franchise. The other assault rifles are power weapons in Gears 5 as opposed to just being spawned weapons like in previous games. I don't know why they did that, because I can't see a scenario where you would want to pick up an awful weapon on purpose. Gears 5 is one of the only games in the franchise where you cannot swap weapons during the respawn time. Except grenades. You can swap grenades, there's two now. There's the smoke grenade and then there's the flashbang. The smoke grenade is only useful for obscuring vision, while the flash grenade stuns them and obstructs their vision. It just has a smaller radius and it actually impacts them instead of just covering area. Which, the smoke grenade already used to do that if used properly. But I guess we've never had a second spawn grenade, so okay, I see what they wanted to do. But taking weapon swapping out of the respawn section completely disregards playstyle and player expression. Gears 4 had this locked down though. It was way more freeform than in Gears of War 3, where you could have your choice of one of two shotguns or one of three lancers. Instead, Gears 4 lets you choose any starting weapon you want. If you wanted to, you could have the hammer burst and an enforcer in the exact same spawn despite them both being assault rifles. I think that's a really interesting idea because it completely reinforces player expression and makes you want to try out different loadouts. After realizing all the assault rifles in Gears of War 5 felt terrible to use, I ran a few tests to see how those assault rifles compared to their predecessors. I wasn't really able to find anything about the amount of HP players usually had, so I'll assume everybody always has 600 health, because whenever I give somebody in Gears of War 5, I get 600 points added to the damage section. So, 600 points. The tests I ran were the same throughout every game I played. I used all usable assault rifles and tracked how many bullets they took to take an enemy to their down but not out state. And most assault rifles have damage drop off, which is something I honestly didn't know up until now. So I did tests at close, medium, and far range. What I found is that the best Lancer goes to either Gears of War 3 or 4, both of them having very similar damages at all ranges and being able to active reload with very little recoil. The best Retro Lancer belongs to Gears of War 4, with it taking 7 shots to down with very little recoil to deal with. And the best Hammer Burst goes to Gears of War 1 with its insane fire rate and crazy damage. It downs people insanely fast if you can land the shots. Surprisingly, or not really surprisingly to me, Gears 5 has the worst iteration of every single one of these weapons. The Lancer has the issues I mentioned before. The Retro is very bouncy at the start of its shooting, and can be controlled, but it has a slow fire rate and needs 8 shots to kill instead of just 7. And a Hammer Burst has the same stats as it did in Gears 1, except for the fact that it shoots way too slow to do anything meaningful outside of a support role. With all of these assault rifles being extremely lackluster, you're kind of forced to play with shotguns or pick up a power weapon, and power weapons are also a really big part of Gears. But in previous game, you could just choose to not be forced to play with a power weapon, but in this game, a Lancer, or any assault rifle for that matter, will always lose to a power weapon no matter the situation. Gears of War 5 is a pretty solid Gears experience, but there's a reason it practically died just a couple of years after release, and it's because it's boring. I still load up Gears of War 3 to this day just to play online with whatever matches I could find, but Gears of War 5, I just play a couple of matches and I immediately want to get off. Also, another thing that's just, it may be an issue with like my Xbox, or maybe I need to re-download Gears 5, or maybe there was an update that made the game all weird, but I cannot stay in a match. Even private matches, I get kicked out due to network issues, but nobody's really lagging, and I don't lag in any other game I play. It's just Gears of War 5. And also, the majority of the time I load into the game, the audio was like this. I don't know what's wrong with Gears of War 5. They actually just like let it go. They just dropped it. I can't even defend the game anymore. But in the end, Gears of War 5 needs to be buried. Gears of War 6, or hopefully a Phoenix collection comes out, so I have something else to fucking play in terms of Gears of War. And that's all for the video. This video has been in the works for so long because I keep trying to get the clips, but I can't because I keep getting kicked out of games. So the next video might not even be Gears of War. You know, next video actually will be prototype. It will be a prototype video. It will be a prototype video. I recently beat prototype 1 and 2, and I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of things to say about it. So stay tuned for that if you care about prototype. And if you don't care about prototype, stay tuned for it still, please. Just watch it, please. I swear it'll be good.